It's 7 o'clock. Welcome to another episode of Ember Business Growth Webinars. And today we are privileged to be hosting a very fine, I don't even know whether to call him young man. I think 10 years ago when I first met him, he was young. Now he's a baby with sharp teeth, so we can't call him young again. My brother, Robert, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you?
I'm okay. I'm okay. Thank you for making time and then for honoring our invitation to speak to our audience on a very critical subject, that has to do with scaling, that has to do with leadership, and that has to do with, establishing the fact or re-echoing the fact that everything rises and falls in leadership. So let me just quickly, read the brief profile you shared with us, because I know your profile is like a whole book. So I'll just read what we have, and then maybe when you get the chance, no, people can Google you and see the amazing things you're doing. But according to him, he says he's a leadership and organizational development expert with over a decade of experience supporting entrepreneurs, startups, and nonprofit leaders across Africa. Robert specializes in building resilient teams, cultivating authentic leadership, and driving purpose-driven growth with a background in life coaching and strategy. He brings a unique blend of insight, empathy, and practical tools to help leaders thrive. Robert is passionate about unlocking human potential and creating workspaces where innovation and collaboration flourishes. This I can testify. I mean, Robert is one of those people that when I'm telling people about, building an enviable career path, they should go and set you up. I've literally opened your LinkedIn and shown people things you've done. There are three of you. You are one, and then I'll tell you the other two later. But those ones are way older. Those ones are way older. People I've met that I think that we're very strategic about, their career growth and career path. But I think you've done what others are now doing, and now you are back to giving impact, like just giving to the world. Because Charlie, anyway, let me not take your shine. Thank you for honoring our invitation, and you're welcome to Ember. So the stage is yours. Please share with us on this critical subject. I mean, I'm waiting to hear it, because leadership is one thing that I believe that all of us should never stop learning, about, because it's ever evolving. And as the world changes, we also have to change. So how do you move from being a founder to a CEO and building sustainable and high growth businesses? So yes, Robert, please, you have the floor. Bless us with your wisdom and insight.
Thank you very much, Eko, and good evening to you all. I am really privileged and excited to be here. As Eko said, I've known Eko for so long, for so long. And he's been an inspiration to me, especially when it comes to, business. If you know how when Eko started startup so many years ago, and so it's exciting to have the opportunity to come back and have a conversation on this topic. So I will not waste much time. I know this is the evening people are exhausted and tired. So I've made my presentation in a way that to be a little interactive, not to engage, not to bore you and get you into any what do you call it, exhausted state already. You are already exhausted. So my topic for today, as I mean, I've discussed with Emba, is leading for scale from founder to CEO. And we chose this topic because I mean, from the research that I have done and working with a lot of startups, and I have realized that this is the challenge. I mean, some of us have worked not only with startups formally, but even our mother's businesses, our father's businesses, and we know what happens in some of these businesses when it comes to scaling. Sometimes you wonder why a Mokola woman, Mokola women or market women never scale up. There's a watch seller on the street, it's still the same 20 years. Why? So that is the reason why we thought, it's nice to have a conversation about this topic. So Ako has already introduced me a bit, so I'll just add a little bit of myself and what I do. So, as he said, I'm a management consultant. What I do is that I help businesses and NGOs and or whatever organization with advisory services to think through whatever challenges they may have or innovation, whatever thing that they are thinking about to grow their businesses. I'm happy to support in that direction out of my experience, especially at the leadership level. And for me, and being young, I like working with young people, young CEOs, and young, because we can vibe and think and have a conversation at that level. I'm also a certified transformational coach. So I also work around supporting people with life issues, think through, I'm sure it's also a certified coach. So, our coaching is not to give you advice or to tell you what to do. So don't worry, we are not supposed to have gray hair, but we can tell you what, we are not going to tell you what to do. We are going to guide you through a process, like this, as you can see, a transformational process to think through whatever challenge, whatever issue that you may have. So I focus on life, leadership, and personal development. I'm a certified trainer. I have certified as a trainer, so my training is not the usual training. When you come to my training, you will not have the same experience. Today, I was at a meeting this morning for learning development professionals from Ghana and Nigeria and HR professionals from around Africa, and it was an amazing presentation about how we want to change the face of training, and to have return on investment and return on expectation. So all these things are things that I work on as a certified trainer. I have also been a CEO twice. So that gives me the qualification to speak about this topic. I've headed Amnesty International in Ghana for 3 years, and I've headed another organization, NGO, Human Rights Advocacy Center, for almost 5 years. So I have, and then I've been in top leadership positions the rest of my life. That is what I've been doing. Um, I'm also the technical lead for Busara Africa. Busara Africa is a leadership organization, and I work as a consulting technical leader, technical lead, where I help with developing technical issues around organizational development, change management, and all of that for the organization. I'm also my new company, Echo. My company. Now I've finally launched Echo. My company, Paper and Price. It's a management consulting firm, and we are growing. We are just about 4 people in the company, and what we do is basically what I'm doing. I'm in management consultancy, especially for startups. So I'm looking forward to working with a lot of you who want to scale your business and have a sustainable way of growing your business with our support. I also have an organization I'm starting now called Women, and I'll talk about it later, maybe another time. But it's basically for to break the barriers that are put in the way of men to be themselves, to live fully. And that is what I have a passion for, to make sure that men do not limit themselves because of what society say, but to grow meaningfully in their life and who they are. And that is one of my passions, and that I'm going to do the rest of my life, is to free people from the shackles of society, and they can live fully. I also am the board chair, and I'm a board member of a number of organizations in Ghana, but 3 of them are the ones that are serious. And I'm also the co-president of a funding organization called ISDAO, West Africa Funding. They fund NGOs, and I'm co-president of that organization. Now to the topic of today. And if you are with me, breathe in, breathe out. Okay, it's good to take care of yourself and to also have wellness in your work that you do. Okay, so the topic for today, as we said, is scaling leading for skill. And the first thing I want to do is to make some introductory statement that should help us to have a discussion for the rest of the day. So for me, as businesses grow, as a business grow, the competencies and the capacities required to manage it are constantly tested. As you grow your business, as it grows, as it becomes bigger, more money, more people, you as an individual, as an entrepreneur, your competencies and your capacity to manage that business is tested. Now you have more money. it tests your business, your financial acumen. You have more customers, your customer service skill. And I'm sure most of you may have experienced some of these businesses that when they scale, we always say in Ghana that when businesses become big now, they don't respond to customers again. They don't. Why? And that's the reason why this topic is very, very, very important. Now, the skills needed to lead it differ from what's required when it started. When you start a business, the skills required is very different when it is scaling. It is very different. And it's important that we recognize that once you build a business, a small business, and it starts growing, you have to start thinking about how do I manage it? And that is why we are here today, for me to give some of what my thinking and from my management experience. It's a transition into a collective effort. Now this thing is not yours alone. I'm sure Echo has a number of staff now and from before, number of staff, number of people that work with him, and the number of you before, when you started your business, was one thing. Even myself, when I started preparing price, was a small thing in my pocket and I don't tell anybody about it. When I started having clients and started talking to people about it, now I have to hire people to join me so that we can do this work together. And that is when you see that your business is growing and you need to start leading differently from being a founder. Okay. Now I have a profound statement, and my assistant said, "Hey, Robert, you need to highlight this very well." So he decided to make this very big on the slide. So in Ghana, many founders remain in their original roles long after the company has outgrown their initial vision. Now you have a vision. I want to build a barbering shop. I want to start a barbering shop. Now the barbering shop, when you were thinking, oh, I have a barbering shop, it will give me money, very noble idea. Now you start the barbering shop. Now people love the concept and it's becoming bigger and bigger. You're opening branches all over the place. Are you the right person to continue leading that business when it starts scaling? We've seen businesses in Ghana, a number of them grow big. We hear of them, they are viral, all of that. Then after some few years, it's gone. Or when the leader dies or goes off or finds something else to do, then the business dies or the organization dies or we don't hear of them again. And this hinders the survival of businesses beyond the founder, because the founder had a vision. There was no translation of vision to another person or to the group or to anybody. And so once they go, the business goes. We have people who started businesses, their children come to take over at a point, and then the business dies because they didn't see the importance of scaling or growing the business or finding people to join them or be themselves, growing themselves to be able to manage those businesses that they start. You may not be the right person to manage your business at a point in time. That's all I'm telling you in this conversation. Now, again, I was convinced by my team to have some statistics to show you, to really give you evidence of what I'm saying when I talk about the Ghana situation. So, a research by one Daniel Bamfo, and the topic is on small and medium enterprises failure in Ghana, causes, effects, and solutions. And this was done just last year in 2024, and he published it in the International Journal of Research and Innovation in Social Sciences. And this is what the statistics say. It says that let me see, this thing is blocking my okay. Now it says that in Ghana, a significant number of small and medium-sized enterprises face high failure rates within the first 5 years. With estimates, let me lower this so that I can see. With estimates ranging from 50 to 95% failure, and approximately 70% of new SMEs fail to become established businesses. This is one of the highest failure rates in the world. So this is a serious matter for us to discuss, especially in our country, And in my research, what I found was also staggering. Oops. Excuse me, looks like my slide is stuck. Okay, now let's go back. Yes. And interestingly, one of the key pointers of the reasons why these businesses fail is because of poor managerial skills and ineffective business planning. So this is one of the key. They were listing 5, and in fact, the first one, of course, all of us know, money. But the second one was poor managerial skills and effective business planning are things that many people do not have, and it is the cause of the failure of a number of businesses, you know. And the study also revealed that over 65% of SME owners lack formal management training, leadership leading to poor decision making, operational ineffectiveness. Okay, and these managerial shortcomings significantly contributed to the high failure rates of SMEs, with 58% of surveyed businesses closing within the first 3 years. So this is serious. And this presentation or this conversation is basically going to look at what do we need to do now. Robert, you've told us that we are failing because we don't have, maybe we may not be having managerial skills because that's what the research says. So what do we do? I mean, I don't want to whine round and go, so I go straight to the point. And just to engage some of you and not for me to be the only one speaking for the rest of the presentation, I'd like to have your ideas about this, about and give me, I'm going to do a metaphor and I want you to help me once I have done this. Let me stop this and then go to my slides. Yeah. Who can relate this to the business growth? This is from conception or from birth to growth. So who amongst us can relate this to business growth and what it requires to manage it? Anyone? As a child is born and as a child grows, what happens and how can you relate it to business evolution? Anyone? And its management? I can't see people, so if you want to speak, you can just go ahead and yes. Abel, please go ahead.
Yes, hi, good evening, Robert and the team. So I would speak from um, what marketers normally are very familiar with, what we call the product life cycle,
Mm,
and relating this to a business. So when a child is born, so we could then relate this to the introductory stage of a product or a service, and
mm,
it's same with business. And so that is where the ideation, trying to introduce it onto the market, actually happens. And all it takes here now has to do with crafting the business strategy
mhm,
and everything you would require to help it grow. Then, as the product is introduced onto the market, then we have the growth stage.
mhm,
So, at the growth stage, you're looking at now having clients, you are looking at your revenue streams, you are looking at your income levels, and you're even looking at um, your staff strength at that point.
mm,
And then as uh, the product now grows, it gains visibility, awareness. People are now patronizing. You can now say that the product has reached a maturity stage.
mhm,
So at the maturity stage, you don't do much. What you do now is to probably maintain your clientele. The focus isn't necessarily on, as it were, converting more clients, but you are now looking at retention
mhm,
because it takes more efforts, times seven efforts, to actually win a new client than to retain what you have. So we could then relate same with as the child has now grown into an adult to the maturity stage
mm.
before it even starts declining. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you, Abel. Thank you so much. I owe you a book. So please leave your details with my colleague Esther. And because you're there, anytime I do any webinar or anything, if you see me there, I'm speaking, be the first to speak when I ask a question. You win yourself a book from my mentor. It is on leadership in Africa redefined. And there's a podcast and everything about it. So Abel, please leave your details with Esther. Esther will get in touch with you and will ship the book to you. Okay. Thank you so much. And amazing explanation of this concept using the marketing experience. I saw Fatima's hand. I like it when women speak. So please, Fatima, please come back. Don't go. I beg you. Come back. Fatimata.
All right. So, good evening.
Good evening.
I was just going to attend, but I saw that Robert was doing justice to the question. So okay, so well, from a layman's point of view, I just saw that there are different developmental stages, and I felt that at every point of the business, there are different needs that you have to, like, different food you need to give the business. So when the business is young, the things you do are different from when it is matured. Yeah. So basically, that's what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Fatimata. And this is so amazing. It's just as all of you have said, when a mother gives us to a child, it's the mother that is the primary carer of the child. Even if the mother has a nanny or whatever it is, the mother is the primary carer of the child. If you give it to a business, you are the one at the idea, you're the one who'd have sleepless nights, like how a mother has given birth to a new baby with a sleepless night. You're the only one who run around with your proposals. But as the business starts going, as you get recognition, there's a need to recognize that you are not the only one who must take care of the child. Even at a point in time when the child grows to a certain stage, you are even allowed to leave the child to someone else. And the child will be independent with someone who may have the experience and the knowledge to take care of the baby. Or even when you do it, like carry the baby in your womb and give birth to the baby, they are all different dynamics that comes with it. And that's the same that it comes to the evolution of a business. And as a founder, your acumen and your awareness of how your business is growing and the kind of leadership and the kind of management it will need, so that you don't become one of the 65% or 95% of businesses, of startups that fail, as we saw at the beginning with the research. It's important that you be aware. And I just wanted to use this as a metaphor so you can remember easily when you decide to take a step. Now, I took some other research from Harvard Business Review, and to just give you a pictorial idea of the evolution of a business and the stages of a small business, And I want you to pay attention to the last column that talks about business and owner, So as you can see, the owner is a white round one, and in the business is a red one. So as the owner, you are in the middle of the business. At a point in time, you almost cover the whole business because it's yours. For its survival, you need to be the one that takes care of it. Now, after you have gone through the survival stage, you are the owner. Nobody is interested. Nobody even likes your idea. But as you grow it, it becomes because people see it, investors see it. Other people, you need employees to come on board who believe in your vision. All of that comes into play. Then you grow into the success and disengagement stage. Now, that is where your business has grown. Now it's on its own. It has funding. It has everything. Now you start disengaging. And there are two things. The reason why you see it is still interlocked is that there's a possibility that you may be the one who continue managing it because you may have the skills required to take care of this business or not. And you may have to hand it over. So these are the dynamics that I just want to use this diagram to draw attention. I'm sure this slides will be shared with you so you can interrogate it, and I'll put the references of these diagrams and these research in the slides so you can go and have more reading. Please read for me, just for me. As a CEO, you must be reading these kind of documents. If you haven't signed up to Harvard Business Review or something, just a free copy of it, then you are in trouble. You really need to study and learn as a potential CEO of your company. You need to keep on reading. And so I asked myself the question after I've done all this research and find out all these things about business. So I'm sure many people ask me, when do we do the shift from founder to CEO? Now you said that, hey, if we don't understand and be aware and do the changes, we will fail. So what do we do now? When do we know that it is time for us to do the shift from founder to CEO? So the first one is when the idea becomes a running organization. See, and all these ideas I'm going to share with you are not the fact that say all these things must happen. It can be one or two or three or any of these things that will happen in your business for you to know as a startup that it's time for me to either reassess myself if I'm the right person to continually lead this business, or I'm supposed to hand it over to someone so that someone else can take it forward. Or do I need to upscale myself so that I can take up that role? So why does it matter when the business becomes a running idea? At that point, you are not just validating a concept. You've passed that stage. You have people, you have budget. Now it's running, So let's become an organization. I always say that one of the best things I ever did for myself is having to work in the corporate space for a number of years, worked in different spaces, in government, at the local level, at the regional level, at the international level. I've worked everywhere. So I've gathered all this experience. So in fact, if you hand over a business to me, you are sure. Because I've managed people. People who have, once an organization starts becoming an organization that is running every day, it is a different set of skills. You're managing people. You have to understand the dynamics of people. You're managing budgets, processes, external stakeholders. All these things come with some skill set that you need to have to be able to make sure the business is running. And that is why many businesses fail, because we do not have these skills to manage these things. It's either we spend too much of our money, or we are not very good people to manage our people, or we don't even put in any systems and structures in our organization and they die. And so we always jump out of this business, or the business fails. So what is needed? Leadership that goes beyond vision. Now you're not growing a business. You're not only growing the concept, like we said before. Now you are managing a whole running organization. When what is required is execution, structure, and accountability. Now you will start working with your board, and your board will be seeking accountability. How much? What is the return on investment so far? All these questions will be asked you. The founder's decision: step into a CEO role if you can grow operational leadership skills, or bring in someone who can at this stage. Any question or comments on this before I move to the next one? Any comments or question before I move to my next slide? Okay, if not, anytime you have a question, you can lift your hand and also open your mic, because I can't see you because of my slides. Okay. So the next thing that will show as a sign is when scaling begins, when revenue starts coming in, when funding starts growing, when the team is expanding beyond the founding group, and when the operational becomes complex. Now you had only one product, one shea butter you were selling. Now you have shampoo, you have soap, you have this, you have different things. Now it has become complex. It's not one process, it's so many processes, And so this is the time when you start asking yourself and assessing, am I the one, or I need someone else to be in the role, or do I need to upskill? Remember, there are 3 questions we are asking ourselves today. If you have a startup that you are growing, at a certain point when these signs come, you ask yourself, am I the one to be here? Do I have the skills? 2, do I need someone else to come in to support me in this stage, to be the CEO or COO, someone who has a competence to manage these complex situations? Or do I need to go and upskill to be able to do these things that are required? So what is needed? You need a systems thinking, and people think it's easy. No, systems thinking is not easy. Now you have to start thinking about, okay, now I have 4 products. I need to develop a process for each of the products and recruit and put people in each of these roles. I need to have a budget. That's, all these systems that you have to put in place. You're managing a team. You're managing long-term planning. At the beginning, I always tell my clients that you start planning for your business in November for the ensuing year. You don't plan in what you call it, in the year that is in January. No, it's wrong. You have to start asking. You have to have an M&E team that have been assessing your process over the period. Your finance person can give you a report and tell you how far you've gone. And your team can tell you an assessment that you can use to start planning into 2025, 2026, for example, if you are planning this year, so that you are not late. You are not fumbling when the year starts. You already have your plans in place. You have a revision process that every quarter you meet with your management team to look at all these things. And it's important that you have all these systems in place that run. So that even as we said before, even when you are not there, if you're a CEO, you go outside the country to do a conference, whatever it is, systems will run. things will go on with even with your absence. And that is what we want to do when our businesses are scaling. Now, the founder's decision is, are you the best person to build this into a scalable, resilient organization? And that's a question you ask yourself as a founder or as a startup owner. Now, when again do we say that we need to look at jumping into a more leadership role of a CEO or a technical role? When investors require it. Now, people have started investing in your business. What does it mean? It means that they need their money back. They need a return on investment. They need their dividend to come. So now what are you doing? Are you the one who is able to do the marketing to make sure marketing is delivering, salespeople are delivering, you have the experience, to do that? Or because it's my business, as we do in Ghana, I take it and put it in the middle of my hat. I don't know anything about marketing. I just go and bring somebody in marketing, and then I'm just looking at the person and always complain the person is not bringing the results. I remember I consulted for a business that brought in a product. They got investors. Investors invested millions of dollars, brought in things to the pot, all the product from whatever country they brought it from. And now it's your time to sell. When I got to the business, the CEO's head was on fire. There was no return on investment. They've employed people and there's still nothing coming in. After doing a needs assessment, it was clear that one, the CEO has never led a business before. They don't even know, they've not even worked in a business before. So they don't even understand how to even plan. I asked if they have a business plan. There was no business plan, there was no marketing plan, there was nothing. Investor just believed in this guy and gave them the money and gave them the goods and come because of lack of experience in business management, all the businesses that the business failed terribly, and there was all kind of debts that happened. And at the point when they bring you in as a consultant, you need to tell them, Master, at this point, you have to be clear and tell them at this point, it is a no going back business about folding up, So the question you ask yourself as a founder is, can you confidently take on these responsibilities and secure trust? If not, bring in a CEO. Okay, somebody who has experience, somebody who has the knowledge, who has the wherewithal to carry on with the business. Now, when the next one is when energy or interest in operations is lost. Now you run this business for so long. Now you know it at the back of your hand. Now you are tired. Now you look at some people who started their businesses and now they are big people. They've handed it over, despite and all of that. They've handed it over. Some of them you don't even see them in their business because at this point in time, they can hand it over and do something else. And maybe even hand it over and live their lives. And we've seen a number of founders in other countries where they sell their business and they move on because at that point, they may not have an interest in that business or the operations of that business anymore. The next one is when the organization outgrows your skills, Now AI is coming. Or AI is in. Sorry, I'm saying AI is coming. AI is in. We are all using AI. I use AI for almost everything I do. Because I understand that the future of work, the future of business is AI. And if you have, there are a number of podcasts around that. You can listen to, Steve Bennett on the Diary of a CEO on the AI and what it's going to cost to businesses and governments. And it's important that as you grow your skill, you have to know that maybe at this point in time, the kind of leadership and the kind of skill that is needed, I don't have it. Maybe I need to invest in my leadership. I need to invest in learning AI. I need to learn how do I use AI to fast track. Now people are going to do fast business because AI is helping us to run things. And if you don't have the skill, you are also still the people who hate AI and say, you just use AI. And you are one of those people saying that you are lagging behind, my dears. You better catch up, have an interest in it, read about it, learn about it, learn machine language. And machine language is what makes me a different person from somebody who just use AI for using AI's sake. Because I know how to trigger the AI to get exactly what I want, and I continue learning. And that's the same thing that I hope that you can learn so that your skills as a person is going to be able to run your business as it's supposed to be. The last one is when stakeholders management becomes core. Now you have a number of people you are managing, not just some few people. Now you have other stakeholders who are in the business. You have more people who have invested. You have more people who are looking at you. And that is why you may need someone who can manage those people very well, who knows how to, manage the board, who know how to manage the donors. Sometimes you may love the business that you started, but you are not the one to manage all these things. And it's important that you know when it is time to step aside, learn a skill, or upskill, or leave the business and go and do something else with yourself. Okay. So I've put this in a nice table for you so that you'll not struggle if you are somebody who likes simple things. And this is just a table that represents all that I've said before. I will stop here and take a few questions before I go to my next phase of the presentation, which is what skills are needed to be a CEO of a scaling business or startup. What are the skills you need to learn to be able to be there? For those who are considering on upscaling, what are the things you can do? So I'll pause here for a few minutes or so, and then I'll take questions or any reaction so far. Any comments or questions up to this point?
Robert,
Yes.
I mean, everything you're saying is nice, right? And then some of us did not learn it early enough. There was a training I did yesterday, and I was telling the business people that, I mean, the truth is that you may not even have the capacity to build a big business, and a lot of us are simply just hoping against hope without knowing, but then what has your experience been, in trying to tell people that you may not be the one to take your business to the next level? And that you are most definitely, you're supposed to most definitely get somebody else to run this business for you. What has the reactions been so far? I mean, in your experience with telling CEOs that you've encountered who probably may not have the capacity to be able to scale their businesses, what experience have you had with them so far? If you have any to share.
So the first thing I see people's face are fear. Big sign of fear. Like, what are you talking about, Robert? I should hand over the business. I'm going to do what? Or I should go and study. I don't have time. I have to be at the business, because it's mine and I need to grow it. It's the fear in people's eye, the mistrust that people have to hand over business to someone else. That has been my experience, that people do not trust that they can hand over their business and come back to it and have it as it is. Or they fear that they may lose the revenue for their business, or they may lose something. I don't know why people have that kind of fear, but people are always afraid of losing their business. And this is because, we don't think, like you said, we don't know this earlier in our business. When we go to all these startup schools or whatever, or whatever training that we are not told, about these things that we are learning today. So we don't put it at the back of our minds that at a point in time, I may not be the one to take this business to the next level. I'm sure this is a very famous thing that you always know, that Steve Jobs was fired from his own business, and today the business is still alive. you know. So many people have started businesses and they have had to hand it over or sell it or move on to be the COO and let somebody be the CEO. I heard the story of Netflix, two gentlemen who started Netflix. And at a point in time, the one who was CEO, one of the gentlemen who was COO came to them and said, look, at this point in the business, you don't have the capacity. I need to now be the leader and you step in my role or get fired. So it's important. It's the real thing for many people is the fear, because they started this, something is their child. I started this business, is mine, is my child, and I have to hand it over to someone at this stage. No, it's not possible. And so for people to be able to have a good reaction to this, they need to change their mindset, and we need to educate people about this idea. And I think maybe the other thing is around putting this education also as part of the training that we do. I'm sure with having to join you now in your team, in any of your trainings for startups, we need to bring in this conversation around leadership, and at a point where people need to know that my leadership capacity is not at the best place for me to be continue this kind of business. Someone else must come up to do it. And this thinking of transitioning, we don't think about how do we transition, how do we do succession. at the beginning of starting a business. Too many things for you to say. Already thinking about how do I produce this dress? Now you have to start thinking about transition. But if it is part of your business plan, part of your startup plan, it becomes part of the way you do your work, from the beginning. You know that at a point in time, or even now, when I know that I will need, when I'm going to, at a point, I'm going to scale, I may need to build certain skills that will be required when the business starts becoming more. When I start having more orders, when I start having more staff, I may need certain skills. So you may need to upskill yourself, or at a point decide to bring in somebody new. Okay.
Interesting.
Okay, so let me quickly continue and then not keep you here for too long. It's evening, and I'm sure some of you who are, of course, business owners, you're exhausted from the day. So what skills are needed to be a CEO of a scaling business or startup? One, you need a visionary leadership. Now, you need to have that kind of vision that is clear of the future of the company. The reason why we say this is for the person who is hoping to upskill is that as startups, we look at how am I going to grow this? How is it going to be? I need to get this laptops to this person. We are ingrained in the operational things of every day. We don't have the space to really sit and reflect. Nowadays there are a number of trainings, like GIZ has some training. I'm sure Eko is on one of these trainings for a number of companies, NGOs and or donors that are supporting startups. But before, you didn't have any business coach to even draw attention to some of these things. So you are busily in your everyday running. The visioning and having been a visionary leader is quite different, where you are holding the vision and you have others following you and you are monitoring that vision. So we want to be a global business with a particular X amount of money by this time. Now, as a visionary leader, you are holding a vision, going with it, and people are following and making sure that they are doing all they need to do through your influence. You are doing all they need to do to make sure that vision is done. So you are checking on the marketing person if they are in line with the vision. You don't have time to now go and do what the marketing person is doing. As a founder, that's what you'll be doing. But as a visionary leader, you are holding a vision and making sure others are influenced through your leadership to do what they need to do. Now you have to have strategic thinking, and that is where reading and spending time reflecting is needed. As a founder, you don't have time. And as I say, people may not have the time to now sit and reflect and read all these Harvard Business Review articles, attend these courses, and now come and sit down and reflect and think through and now sit with people to, you may not have that time. But if you start thinking as a CEO, you start thinking about, I want to be a CEO, your mind has to start going there. How do I think strategically? How do I do things that are not just operational, but at the top level, like taking decisions on policy? Now the city is dropping. As a strategic thinker, now you have to start thinking already with your team. How are we going to manage this drop in city? What is the potential that when the city comes to one city, I will be affected? How will I be affected? How do I manage this process? All goes into strategic thinking, looking ahead, thinking about what are the potential challenges? How do I address them now before they come? Who can I bring in to support me? All those things, a CEO, that's the role of a CEO who is managing such a startup. You need financial acumen, and that's one of the weakest link in a number of startup leaders. Your financial management. And I'm very happy, Eko, that I think last week or last 2 weeks, that's what you did. And the idea of understanding finances. I always when I remember my mother's business. My mother has run a business for over 30 years. She's run selling shirts, and she's to in Kantamanto, and from Kantamanto she's all over. When I ever ask her for a bank statement or ask her for her leisure or something, she doesn't have. And I'm sure it's the same for a number of businesses across. If you go to somebody managing what do you call it, a supermarket, or they've opened a provision store, like we call it, they don't have all these financial tools and all the things that are needed to think financially every month. What was our sales? What was our profit? How do we take our profit from the operational cost and spend the profit and not spend the whole business. I still use my mother as an example. Like when I go to a shop and I say I'm hungry, they just go into the money where everybody has paid the money and put in and take some money and go and buy food for me. A business does not run that way. You need a financial acumen to say, no, it's only the profit. I need to pay myself a salary and not spend that money. I need to pay people's salary, and the salary comes from the operational cost whilst we look at the profits and see what we do. Do we reinvest? What do we do? Take out the dividends for the investors. All of those things are financial acumen that is needed for a CEO at that level. Now, you need to have team building and management skills. As a CEO, you are managing people who may have certain top-notch skills. And as for some of us, I call myself a superstar. If you employ a superstar, if you employ someone like Echo, the way you manage us is very different from when you employ somebody who is now starting. Superstars, we don't want disturbance. Echo, don't you agree with me? As superstars who have been in the system for a long time, you would not manage us as you manage every other person. You give us the independence to do what we have to do. And so if your CEO and your business have skilled and you need people with you bring in someone who has the degrees and the experience, and now the person is managing your business, there's a different way of managing them. And you need to understand how to have all those team management skills, know who is who, how do I manage each person so that you can manage your business, your team to a particular level. Delegation is important. Delegation is a whole thing. I teach a whole course, and next week I'm going to do a whole leadership training for executive directors of NGOs in Ghana, some of them in the northern region in Tamale. And one of the main courses I teach for half a day is delegation. How do you delegate? How do you ensure that your delegation is effective as a CEO? How do you monitor your delegation? How do you ensure that you are using your delegation to empower people and train people to step into your role in the future? All these things are things that for you as a CEO, you may need. You need the adaptability and resilience skills. Now the dollar is like coming to one city. And for some of us, I always say, me, I'm paid in dollars in the work I do. Now you see that the dollar is dropping, and when you quote a particular amount of dollar, it's less in city. You spend in city. So all these things are things that you need to see. How do I adapt as a CEO? How do I make sure my staff are not affected? And my business, because once staff are affected money-wise, you know what is going to happen. People will start stealing. I just heard a story on TikTok about a businesswoman who staff stole 60,000 Ghana cedis from her. And by the time she realized it was too late, the person resigned and had left. So it's important that we are aware and be adaptable in the process of the work that we do if we want to be CEOs. Now, decision making and under uncertainty. Now you have to make decisions. COVID came, for instance. What decisions are you making? Are they things that will help the business? When COVID came, people had to send their staff home. Business was not running. There was no money that was coming in. Now you need to start thinking about, how do I change my business model? What decisions do I make? Sometimes, for instance, for a number of the NGOs I work with and I'm the board chair of, now there was when the US government decided, look, we are not going to give funding again, cut funding. A number of people were affected. If you are the CEO of this NGO or the executive director of this NGO, what are you going to do? How are you going to manage people? You may have to send people home. You may have to. I see one of my mentees here who is a CEO of one of the executive directors of one of the NGOs, who had to send staff home and have a small team so that they can keep managing. How do you make those decisions? You need to be in that position to be able to make those decisions. As a founder who wants to be CEO, you have to have that skill. Your communication skills must be top notch. When you're speaking to your colleagues, your managers, how do you speak to them? Speaking to the board members, how do you speak to them? The emails you send, how are they drafted? Are you mindful of your language? And we are talking to clients, to investors. There are so many different ways that you need to be able to manage communication as a CEO. You don't communicate like any other person. The one word you say as a CEO means thousands to many people. If a manager says something that everybody will take it as a light thing. As a CEO, when you say it, it is at a different level. I remember in my organization some time ago when I used to manage Amnesty International as the country director, there are things that I know that if I go and say to staff that this is it, it comes with some sense of authority and people respect it and people want to do it. Now, if I send someone to go and say it, it doesn't have the same effect. So as a CEO, you need to be aware of that kind of thing. I go to some small businesses. I manage a school as well. And I go to some business, and you see some of the CEOs speaking, in certain terms to staff and all of that. When they are not the ones supposed to communicate that information, they are the ones communicating those kind of information to people. When they are middle managers and other people they have employed to do that kind of work. Your networking and relation building must be at the highest level, especially when you're looking for investors, you're looking for customers, you're looking for people to work with. Your network, you must not stay in your business all the time. You must be going to these raves, go to these launches, go to these conferences, and that is where you do your networking and your building of relationship. I went to today, one of the networks I built, two people, one from Millennium Insurance and one from the CEO of what is it, Republic Bank. Those are the networks I built today from the event I went to. So it's important that as a CEO, that is your mind. How do I get in contact with the people that I'm looking for? I remember one of my clients, my clients in Nigeria came to me and said, Robert, now we have worked so hard, we've raised so much money. Now some of the donors say we are too high, they can't work with us again. How do I scale up my fundraising skills? And I said, my dear, fundraising is relationship. Why do you think some of these donors and fundraisers go to all these horse shows in the UK? They go to look at this Wimbledon tennis and all of that. It's because the rich people, that is where they are. That is where they go and play golf. They go and do all that. Is where Kempinski, that's where they go to. If you are a CEO and you're looking for these people, you have to go to places where the money is, where people are, where you can get that. And that is why you may need to change how you look, how you feel about yourself, your confidence, and all kinds with coaching. Myself and I are here. We can help you to build that kind of self, esteem and self-confidence to be in such spaces, So your networking is important. Your customer focus, how you have to focus on your customers as a center of your business. Though you are at the very high top of your business, you're still looking and making sure that customers are satisfied. Checking with your data. I always tell businesses that they don't have M&E. I teach a course with a school called Cambridge Center of Excellence, where I teach M&E, and I always tell the business people that you think M&E monitoring evaluations for only NGOs or development people. No, as a business, you must have monetary evaluation in your business. Monetary evaluation make sure that you're able to find your numbers. How many customers did we serve this month? How much money did we get this month? How many customers got angry? You do your survey. You don't put your customer service thing there to say, fill this feedback and just leave it there. It has to be active. You have to get somebody who's responsible to ensure that every customer fills that business. And when you send food to someone, do you send a service? We beg you, we have only 2 questions for you. Please fill it for us. Let us know. Feedback. So your customers are the center of your business. You know the information from them to help you grow your business. And the CEO must have somebody who they are managing to do all these things. Yeah? Crisis management. It's important that you know how to manage crisis when conflict comes, when a problem comes, when for instance, your business sent some food to someone that was hair in it, and you sent it to the chief of staff of the presidency, and you send them that food, and there was hair, and the chief of staff took a picture and put it on social media and mentioned your business. What do you do as a CEO? What do you do? All those things are things that you need to think about as a CEO, because you are managing all these things. And though you say, well, I have a PR, I have a what you call it, I have a marketing people, I have also people who can stand in for me. It's important that as a CEO, you have an idea of what will work and work with your team. I remember when I started my job with Amnesty International, I had a big crisis. I was all the way in Denmark, and I was called that there's some big crisis press conference solution thing that was happening in Ghana. I needed to find ways of speaking to my board, speaking to people to make sure that everything is in line before I came down to Ghana to now come and manage the situation, bring my team together to talk to them, to think through with them so they don't feel lost and they don't feel that, it's only the board and the CEO that are thinking about, no. The staff are also giving their ideas. What do we do about this? How do we manage this? So they feel ownership of the process. And we can do a whole class on crisis management later. And then the scaling or scaling operations, now they're different, like I mentioned, there are different lines to your business, different customers that are coming. how do we build in operations in a way that it helps us grow our business in a smooth way that we don't break down because we don't have all the operational things in place whilst our business is growing. Your fundraising and investor relations. When somebody gives you money, you don't go to sleep on them. They are not only waiting for your money for their dividend or their return. They'll be grateful to hear from you on updates. Send them updates. Let them know what is happening as a CEO. Send something that now be creative. Don't only send written things. People don't have time to read a lot of figures and things these days. What are the innovative ways? A voice recording as a CEO, and you send it to them. A video, a short 2 minutes video about updates as a CEO, so that people see that you are leading the business, so your donors know how you are doing. I've already talked about fundraising in another one. Now, cultural leadership. Now, the culture of any business is the leader. Today, again, I was doing another session with another group of people on building your business and managing situation around it, and it was on culture. When we say organizational culture, you as a CEO, you shape the culture of your business. And we say culture, it talks about how do we do things here in this business. How Akoto does business in his organization is very different from how I do business in my organization. My culture is open, free, flat. My team must call me Robert. You don't call me CEO. If you call me sales, we will laugh at you. You know, that's the kind of culture we built. You work from home, you work at your own speed, but you have a timeline. You work in a simple, sweet, soft manner. You don't become too hard on people. You know, we are more empathetic. I saw that you did something on empathy also last time. More empathetic to people than being hard. All these things are things that for us in our business at Paper and Price we center. Go to another business, they'll say they like excellence, speed, da, 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 da. And all these things must be built in you as a leader so that other people see it as they run the business. You go through the business, they see that you as a leader, you're able to mirror it to them for them to copy that kind of lifestyle. Time management and prioritization is important. As a CEO, you need to know. I remember I used to tell one of my leaders that, you see, as a CEO, when you're giving me a job, you need to tell me, you give me so many things, you need to tell me which one is most important now and when. As a CEO, you need to be clear on what is needed now, what is needed later, so that you don't have conflict and misunderstanding. If you're not clear, you give somebody 5 things to do. You say, these are the 5 things I want you to do. I want you to concentrate on number 5, and number 5 should be delivered by this time. It's important that you show clearly what is important, what is supposed to be prioritized, and how we are managing time. Now, I have a small test I wanted us to do, but I know you're exhausted. So I'll leave the link in the chat box, and then you will do it on your own. Or Echo, do you think we can do it together here?
Well, it depends. We have just about 5 minutes, so maybe
Okay.
we can scratch it and then see, give some background, then they'll
Okay.
do it. But Esther will definitely follow up and get the feedback for you.
Sure. So what I'll do is I'll just show the document that we have worked on to show you. It's just a document for you to check, I mean, with yourself and see, at this stage of the business, am I the one supposed to be there? Do I have these skills and competencies to manage this thing that let me see. Okay, so let me just share my screen now and then show you, and then we move on to take questions quickly before people start running away because it's end of day. So this is a quick checklist that we have, and we've grouped them into vision and strategy, people and culture, operations and execution, leadership and growth, stakeholder management, self-reflection and energy. So I will just send it to you. You can do it at your own pace and speed, and we'll leave our contact if you want to continue engaging on this document. We are happy to work with you as an organization. Let's finish quickly, and then we can take quick questions. Okay. So how can interestingly, the how is very small and it's straight to the point, because I know I've said this several times to people. So it's straight to the point. If you don't know how to manage a business and you don't know how to do it, get a job. You know, if you're now starting and you don't have the skills, you don't have the competencies, everything, go and find a job. If it's even an internship somewhere, to learn the processes that will help you get the quick skills on your hand, you know. maybe you run your business on the side and get something that gives you an insider into a business, that gives you the nuances, that it makes you to adapt some of these skills that you see, these operational manuals, these things that you may not have and you may have to hire a consultant to all to do it. You can adopt them into your business and fine-tune them to meet your needs. If you sometime I remember I used to I have a friend whose father invested so much money in a business, in a startup for him. All of us were ignorant. We didn't know what we were doing. But this man gave us a lot of money. What you know what we used to do? Because we didn't have experience in business and organizational management. We go to the office, sit there, eat, talk, chat, and we go home. We didn't know about, we say we have an idea, want to do events. We only go there and talk about the event all day and then go home. And we only produce one event after so much money that was invested. But once we got the skills and the competence of going through organizations and learning how businesses are run, all of that, then we got the idea that no, we were not supposed to be sitting in the office. We're supposed to be developing our plans. We're supposed to be doing this and that and that. And that is good. So I will advise, if you have the opportunity and you are now thinking about, I know we are different people here. Not all of us have already started our business. So if you're thinking about it, get something that will help you get a good understanding of how operations, management, leadership works, and then we come and implement it in your own business. You can take an MBA. That gives you an idea. At least you have, if you're a startup already, you can look at what the MBA tells you, and you can be practicing it in your own business as you go along. Then you have to take a business or leadership course, a business leadership course that will help you, to understand the nuances of all these things. You get a leadership coach, and I'm happy to support you to do that. To look at your business, what are the leadership skills you need? How can you build them? We can support you in that area. And then the final thing I'll say is, look, if you are going the business and you realize that, look, at this point, I don't have the capacity, I'm exhausted, I don't have the time, step down, hand over the business to someone who can do it and let the business grow. But that one also requires a whole lot of processes that we need to go through, hiring the right person, making sure you put the right systems in place so that when you put the business in somebody's hand, it doesn't go haywire. All of those things are important for us too. So in conclusion, I would say that the shift from founder to CEO doesn't happen overnight. If you want to shift from founder to CEO, it doesn't happen overnight. It is a gradual process that requires the founder to have a deep sense of self-awareness. Know thyself, know yourself. What can you do? What can't you do? What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? Know yourself before you're able to either hand over after you've gone to the phase of the business where it is scaling, or build the skill that you required, or take over the business on your own, any of them that you want to do. It may sometimes mean upskilling or handing over the business to a more competent person who can take it to the next level. This shift is crucial to ensure that the company can scale effectively without risking the potential to fail. Now, you know yourself and your business better than I do. And so I wish you the best, and I hope that this that I have shared today will help you make good decisions that will grow your business at the end of the day. Thank you very much for listening to me. I'm so grateful. Thank you. I'm open for questions. Okay, I'm done.
Okay, thank you so much. When experience talks, the difference is clear, right? Because sometimes people don't have the privilege of making mistakes till it's too late, right? And I think that Robert and I have, well, I, I I envy him small because see at the point where at the point where we're doing trial and error, this guy was already leading organizations, and under the tutelage of amazing people. His bosses have been phenomenal. And honestly, if there's one thing I regret not doing is not having bosses like Robert's bosses early in life, because they will keep you in check. I mean, I don't even want to mention some of his bosses that he's had, but they will keep him in check, and eventually that will change the way he thinks, the way he does his work, and even the exposure and experience that he has, and the level of wisdom he brings to most subjects, especially when it comes to business management and leadership. So thank you so much for sharing these insights with us. I don't know if anybody has a question. Normally, because these webinars are just 1 hour, sometimes we don't get enough time to ask questions. That's why we have the physical sessions once every quarter. But because that one is paid, people don't like coming. Don't mind them. But I see there are a few questions, so we'll just take about 10 minutes of questions. Prince, your hand is up, so you have the floor.
All right. Thank you very much, Echo and Robert. Robert, very good presentation. Really, really insightful. I just have 2 points to add to what you've shared. And the first one is I think one other thing most business owners would also ask themselves um, is my business at the point of scaling, or how do I tell if my business is really at a point where it has to scale? And there are many things that could be considered, but one thing I'll also add is if you really are not making sales or are not sure about making sales, then you probably are not at the point of scaling. And you don't also want to get to a point where you are throwing a lot of money, a lot of time and investment into something that would eventually not scale, or even if it seems like it will, by the time you get to the point where you are clear in your mind, you would have wasted time, wasted money, and wasted other people's investment as well. So one of the way to check that is to ensure that you clearly can tell that you are making sales, or you have systems in place that gives you the assurance that sales will be made eventually. And one other thing I'll add before I drop off will be the point around collaboration. So you did mention about networking, you didn't mention about putting yourself out there. Truth is, sometimes as a business, you might not be able to do everything by yourself or within your organization. There are other players within the ecosystem that may have already done what you seek to do or have the solutions that they are applying within their space. So it's important that you also network on the lateral basis where you are looking out for people like yourself within the ecosystem who might be small like you or slightly bigger than you, who have systems in place that are either helping with their HR management or their financial management, or simply even helping with crisis management. You know, how do you connect with such people? Or they could even be within your value chain, right, where you of let certain things to them to do on your behalf, so all the burden doesn't fall on you, as long as you can trust their operations. So those are the two things I would like to add. But this has been very, very insightful. Thank you, and you and the call for putting this together.
Thank you very much, Prince. Very grateful.
Okay, so Robert, if you can address that, and if anybody else has a question, please lift your hand. We just have about 3 minutes more of Robert's time. He takes dollars. We can't afford him. So please ask your questions now. Ask your
Yeah.
questions now before we sign off. But if you can address what Prince said, that would be great.
Yeah, I mean, I can't agree more with Prince that collaboration is key. I mean, especially when you know that at a point in time your business needs support or some sort of, there's something that you may need at a point that somebody has, that if you have something. Always business is about negotiation and profit and benefit. You can't go to someone and say, let's partner when you are not bringing any benefits or profit to them. So looking and being aware of the opportunity to collaborate, as Prince has highlighted, is very important. And I agree with him. I mean, all that he said, I agree with him, and it's in line. Yeah, thank you.
Great. All right, Nat.
Hello, good evening. So my question is, as a founder, if you grow up a business to a certain point and you want to transition from the business, how do you have faith that this business will grow on its own by handing it over to another person? Because there are some employees in the business, they even want to get richer than you, the entrepreneur who set up the business and incurred all the risks. So how do you manage all these kind of transitions, and how do you manage all these transitions? That's my question.
Thank you very much, Nat. And exactly what Echo had, we talked about at the beginning, the fear. And I think what I mentioned was that one, I think that the key thing that we don't do in our businesses, a lot of us, especially startups, is building systems and structures, that serves itself. Systems and structures that are monitored through the process and has a rigorous process that supports it. I think Obama said it when he came. He couldn't say it better when he said about how if Africa or Ghana will survive, it's about building the systems and structures that are needed to make sure that we grow. So as you are building your business and you want to scale, you may have to hand it over. It means building the systems and structures that allow for checks and balances and accountability in the business. You don't hand over a Momo phone to a staff and say you handle Momo without any checks and balances. You don't say, hey, you have your money somewhere, anybody can take your checkbook for you. You have to set up the systems and the structure. The accounting systems are clear. There are policies and procedures. Many startups don't have policies. If they give me the policy HR handbook, they don't have time. They are thinking about, or give me your operational manual. They don't have it. And the only way you can hand something over to someone is when you have set up all the systems and structures. You have a board that is running and you keep your board. Now, if you have a board that is checking the business, when you are hiring a CEO, even the process of hiring a CEO will be so rigorous and will make sure that the processes that will bring someone in to manage your business checks the person that is coming in. And therefore that is a key thing. And then the last thing I'll add before we take the next question, possibly if it is possible, I see someone has raised their hand, is the recruitment process. When you're recruiting people, take your time. It can really take you so long to bring in people. Don't be that empathetic person. So I'm only paying thousands to this, so I'm just recruiting anybody to come into the business. No. Take your time and recruit the right people, recruit people who link with you, recruit people who you cannot know a person all the time, but at least there are certain values that you put across in recruiting people. The style of recruitment can even influence who comes in. So it's important that we keep these things at our fingertips in the process. And there are many other ways in which we can also share, but these are the things that come to top of my head at this moment. If there's any need for clarification, I'm happy to support. Yeah.
All right, Robert, thank you. Give us just 5 more minutes. I think Kwame has a question as well. And this will be the last, please. Kwame, you have the floor.
Okay, Mr. Robert, this is Kwame.
Hey, Kwame.
Yeah, I think this is our first time of meeting on such a platform. Yeah. Okay, so I am starting how do I even call it? A startup, and we are bringing a product. So it's a software product, like we are building a web app. So I want to know, as a startup, we haven't learned the product yet. Is it necessary to start employing people, like maybe volunteers as brand ambassadors and setting up a team? Is it necessary for a new startup that we are starting? We don't have revenue. We don't have anything, just the expertise, like having the skills to build. Yeah, that's the only thing. So is it necessary or is it relevant for such a startup
Okay,
to
Kwame,
be employing people as brand ambassadors? It has been
okay, Kwame, I think your question is clear. We'll just take Abel's on since he's already a prize winner, and then Robert will speak to both, and then we'll close for the day. All right, so Abel, you have the floor.
Yeah. So, well, not to take the wind out of Robert's sail, I just wanted to, just in line with Kwame's question. So, per the little I have learned from Eko, Eko has been my mentor for a very long time. First, have you conducted your feasibility study to know whether the product is going to thrive? Have you also conducted an analysis of how the market looks like? Who is your target? Who are your competitors? Because if you move straight into recruiting or investing directly into marketing without doing due diligence, your product might be the best on the market, but you are likely to fail. So if you ask me, in my personal opinion, I think there are systems and processes you need to follow before you even think of um, recruiting. So do all the due diligence, target wise. Um, what do you seek to achieve in terms of revenue streams? Who are your target markets? Have you even identified potential buyers? And then this would help in informing whether your decision whether you would want to bring in more people to help or what have you. Thank you.
Beautiful. This
Okay,
is an
so
okay. So Kwame, is
okay,
it a follow-up question?
no, I think he was asking about whether I have done all those business
Due diligence.
things like setting the target market and everything.
Yes.
Okay, so for the target market, yes, we have set a target market, and we have actually set the target revenue we are looking at, and we have built the MVP, and now we are transitioning to building the real product. It's ready, and we are doing piloting with some few selected students to see how the product will go, find bugs in the website to fix them and iterate on our design and everything. So for those processes, yes, we have gone through some processes, but I don't think it's all the processes. Yes, I know business comes with a lot of processes, and yes, we have been through some few processes. We have done the MVP and everything. Like there is one thing I've forgotten the name, where you have to add those scamper, the scamper analysis. We've done scamper and everything. Yes.
Okay. So I think maybe we may need to have Kwame for maybe a 30 minutes free session.
Yeah,
Just
that's what I was also talking. I was actually thinking about the same thing. Like this one, you need a coaching session. So, Kwame, I think if Robert would be generous enough, he would he would love to speak to you later. So maybe if you can let Esther have your details, we will run it by Robert, and then whenever he has some free time, I'm sure he would ship you in. But well done, Kwame, for how far you've come. We wish you well in your endeavor. And then thank you, Abel, for chipping in. Definitely, you are pitching to be our next guest. So I'll definitely bring you. Abel is just one of those people I've known for over a decade, and he's like, oh my God, very relentless. Okay, so thank you so much, Robert. It's been an insightful time. I like how you back your presentations with research. I'm still surprised why you haven't done your PhD yet, because honorary, we can't use the doctor now. They say we can't use. We have been waiting for honorary since. They say now we can't add it to our name, so we have to go to school. So please go back and do your PhD. If you're already doing it too, then please let us know so that we will be more inspired to also go and pursue ours. But thank you for your time. Thank you for your insights, your experience, and then for the knowledge that you have shared. We are very grateful.
yeah. And
If you have any
I want
last
to say,
words, we would love
I
to hear
want
it
to
from you.
I want to acknowledge my team. Courage just dropped off. Emmanuel also just dropped off. Those are my team members from Paper and Price. Let's say thank you, because I just did the slides and they had to turn into what you see now. So
Of course.
they have a
Nice.
clean slide and then they turned into what it is now. So thank you, team members. I see, as I said, my mentee, my mentees is here and he's going through a transition process. Sean, thank you for coming. I really appreciate it. And Eko, thank you. And I'm looking forward to having a leadership in-person training with, because I'm so passionate about it and I'm looking forward to doing that. So colleagues, I'm so grateful that you gave me this opportunity and I hope it has been helpful. Always reach out to us and we'll be happy to work with you. Thank you very much, Eko, for this opportunity.
All right. Thank
Oh,
you so much,
Esther.
Robert.
Thank you, Esther. Thank you so much for the support and
Uncle
for our
Roberts.
relationship.
Uncle Roberts. Anyway, guys, we're still doing the in-person workshop on the 14th of June at my office at Dancerman. So Esther will give you a bit more insight on it. Please make time and come. And then let's network, let's meet, and then help you with growth strategies to ensure your business grows more and more this year. Thank you so much for attending. Thank you, Robert, for honoring our invitation. We'll see all of you, God willing, next week, same time, same place. Bye-bye.